Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody, and happy holidays. I am Gloria Treister. I'm a certified holistic health practitioner and coach, and I have the pleasure of working with Dr. Tammy Gutierrez, who will introduce herself. She's a board certified medical doctor and a functional medicine specialist. And today we're going to talk for I'll give you a little bit of the schedule. We're going to try to stick to 45 minutes. It's a busy day for everyone. But what we're going to cover today are some tips and tricks for not gaining weight during the holidays, and also on how to have a healthy holiday season and get started on your New Year's resolutions before New Year's. So at least knowing what they might be and working on them already and sailing through the holidays without any glitches. We have some fabulous handouts that we'll be emailing to each one of you afterwards that include some phenomenal recipes, some great substitutions if you're trying to figure out what do I take out of a recipe to make it healthier. And I think Dr. G is going to talk about that a little bit this morning, especially since a lot of people that we work with have food sensitivities and other gut issues that need to be addressed, especially at the holidays. And we'll give some great tips and tricks. So without further ado, Dr. G, go ahead and introduce yourself and let's get going.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. Again, I am Dr. Tammy Gutierrez. For those of you that don't know me, I am a family medicine doctor who then went back and did some additional functional medicine training because I really wanted to get to the root of things, right? Functional medicine says don't just follow some guidelines of, oh, you have asthma, here, take these inhalers, but say, why do you have asthma? Why are you not well? What's in the way? Because your body wants to heal. And so we are going to take that same approach to kind of navigating the holidays, right? What is at the root of the challenges that we face at the holidays, and how can we tackle that so that then the holidays become healthy and happy and you feel whole at the end instead of run down. I'm a pretty low-key person. So again, feel free to chat some questions. I am always happy to take this in the direction that you want, but I'm just going to start off by giving us a framework for that deeper understanding of why are the holidays such a time for weight gain and such a time for unhealthy choices, right? And I think there's lots and lots of layers to that. Obviously, our particular culture in this country really does push a lot of unhealthy choices all year round, but more intensely at the holidays. But I'd like to just remind everybody of a really simple way of thinking about your health that you can totally apply to the decisions and the challenges you face at the holidays too. And that is thinking of health as a checking account, right? That we put money in, right? Or resources in, and we spend money and resources out when there are challenges. And that can be as simple as daily maintenance, right? But it can also be things like cleaning up the mess from whatever you ate at the holiday party, or cleaning up the mess and dealing with the stress of trying to pay for those Christmas gifts, or trying to make it to those parties, or trying to get all your work done really, really fast, or feeling torn between family time and work time and personal time and all these things. And so as a general rule, trying to be healthier means trying to put more things in and spend less, just like a healthy checkbook. And so we're going to talk about that framework as it applies to sort of the 5 functional medicine buckets at the holidays, and really help you have some practical tips for doing this, not just wishing you could do it, right? So everybody always thinks about diet, but we're also going to talk about the other 4, which is sleep and exercise, relationships, and stress management, because they all play a role in determining whether or not you're going to pack on some pounds over the Christmas season. And it is very common. In fact, there's good data that the average American between 20 and 60 adds about 1 or 2 pounds at the holidays and then doesn't lose it, which is why the weight drifts up as we age. That almost all of that weight gain actually happens in November, December, and early January. And so if you can stay neutral at this time of year, you set yourself up for a lot of success. So how do we do that, right? How do we make that happen? So first off, I think is awareness, right? Learning to listen to your body and understand the why behind all of the choices and decisions that you are making. And so that is a place that I would really say is the critical starting point. So one of my favorite tricks to tell people to do is to put up like a sticky note or a little mantra poster or something that at your table, at your refrigerator, at your cupboards, right? Just go put some little flag there that says, hey, check in, right? Listen to your body. So before you make any kind of food decision or other kinds of decisions, even sort of stress response decisions, right? Did you check in, right? What am I feeling, right? And what can I do about it? That very simple thing. And you could write that on those pages if you want, but what am I feeling and what can I do about it? So am I actually hungry, right? Is that why I am eating? Am I actually feeling the need for calories and food right now? Or am I eating because everybody else is eating? Or because I'm feeling stressed? Or because I'm exhausted and I was up late last night buying Christmas gifts or doing whatever, and now I just need something to perk me up. So I'm going to reach for that sugar, or I'm going to reach for that caffeine, or both, right? And so what is going on inside me, and what are my choices? Right? So that very simple check-in can actually save a lot of headaches if you just get in the habit of doing it throughout the day, right? And the second one is really kind of planning ahead, okay? So as we think about this upcoming week or two, what is most important to us? Sometimes we have a problem, especially women in this country, we have a problem saying no to things. And so then we end up overextended and feeling overwhelmed and wiped out and unable to meet the demands. And often in those moments, what gets neglected then is our self-care. And so really thinking about what is important to me over the next couple of weeks of holidays, and what do I really want to prioritize? Right? And how can I make some time for self-care and put it on your schedule, like plan it in, ideally first thing in the day so that it cannot get bumped because that is often what happens when things are busy, right? Is if you say, oh, I'm going to exercise this evening, something happens and it doesn't happen. And so plan little moments of self-care throughout your day, and really see if you can't incorporate those into a meaningful plan for your holidays. And again, if you have this understanding of like, oh my goodness, I just signed up for 10 events over the next 14 days. Are you sure? Right? Would you rather call some of those people back and say, hey, can we meet for coffee in January instead? Right? Like it looks like maybe I signed up for too much and I really value you and I want to see you, but maybe I'd like to spread it out a little bit, right? You can totally set some little boundaries. So this is kind of the overall framework, right, of this planning and all of the benefits that you can get. And then we're going to dive into some of those specific details in just a second. I also want to say, just looking at the names that I see and thinking of who has signed up for this, that sometimes too, planning ahead helps us when we have food sensitivities or food restrictions that make us feel like we can't participate in what everybody else is doing. And a little tiny bit of planning ahead means at the beginning of the holidays, maybe you bake, a delicious dessert, or you go to the store and you buy something that's a really amazing special treat for you. And then you just bring it with you to all of those things that you go to so that you don't feel like, oh, there's no dessert for me, right? Or maybe you reach out to those people who've invited you and you say, hey, is it okay if I get you a jar of ghee instead of butter? And can you replace the butter you were going to put on the outside of the turkey with ghee for me so that then I can also participate, right? That's not asking them to do anything different except do a quick swap that you have potentially provided. Right? Or could I get you a bag of gluten-free all-purpose flour so that you could use that in place of your other flour without really affecting the taste at all? Both of these substitutions, most people would never even notice, by the way. So anyhow, these kind of simple things, if you plan ahead, means that maybe you don't have to bring your own special food and you don't have to feel left out because of dietary restrictions. So anyhow, those are some ways that planning can really manifest in very specific, tiny strategies, right? That would take you 10 minutes to kind of call or text a couple people and say, hey, what can I do to make this holiday safer or more fun for me? Or 10 extra minutes at the store to pick up something like this. This is one of my favorites when I need portable deliciousness, right? These are Organic Traditions dark chocolate almonds. And if I know that I've got 5 of these sitting in my bag, then I don't feel bad when other people are eating whatever it is they're eating, because I get something extra special for me. And so really trying to kind of plan ahead and be prepared for whatever challenges you might face at these events or these family gatherings. Other ways that food can become healthier, right, is really thinking about which needs are being met and which aren't being met at the table, right? A lot of times we have a huge carb fest with the holidays, right? But there is usually some protein at the table, and making sure that there's a healthy protein as you're planning your holiday meal, really thinking about, okay, what is the core of this meal that I'm going to create? Am I going to have, salmon, which would be amazing and healthy? It's also kind of expensive. What if I'm going to just roast a chicken or a turkey? What can I do to include more vegetables? What can I do to use healthier fats, right? One very simple way to make most recipes healthier is to look at the type of ingredients in it and see if you can't health them up a little bit. So instead of using, again, butter, picking something like ghee or picking coconut oil, if you're cooking at a lower temperature, like 350, then you could swap things out for olive oil. If you're higher temperatures, the avocado or coconut oils are healthier options compared to many of the things you'll find in most of the recipes online. And so swapping out the oils for fruit oils, the olive, avocado, and coconut, or swapping out your butter for ghee or coconut oil is a very simple way to make things a little healthier for you. Also, adding flavor with things like lemon or rosemary or thyme or other herbs instead of big, thick, heavy sauces is another really good way to take almost the same dish and make it instantly a lot healthier. Those fresh herbs and spices actually help us lower inflammation and help us be healthier, as well as decreasing our exposure to the gravies and some of that other stuff. If you do really want a gravy, I have a couple healthy gravy recipes in the holiday recipe handout that we made. But really thinking about whether you actually need that, right? Could you make almost more like a vinaigrette, right? I'll tell you that actually like a pomegranate juice, balsamic vinegar, and olive oil makes an amazing sauce to put over things. It's actually so much healthier than the average gravy. And so thinking about little tiny swaps to increase the number of fruits, vegetables, and fresh herbs and spices, and decrease the number of processed things and the number of flour and bread and carb-based ingredients. It's not that carbs are bad, but when you look at the holiday plate, it's usually almost all carbs, and that is not a healthy balance for most people. And again, it's a part of why we pack on the extra calories at the holidays. And so trying to keep some balance in there can really, really help. Trying to think about how you make things. Almost everybody makes some kind of sweet potato dish in their families at Christmas time, but it doesn't have to have marshmallows on top of it. You can roast it with rosemary and olive oil, or you can saute them. Again, we have a couple different delicious recipes for sweet potatoes. And so trying to get outside the box and still have maybe the sweet potatoes, but not necessarily the things that just add extra sugar and processed things instead of adding extra health value. I also will tell you many people's holidays lack vegetables. So another really helpful tool, and again, if you are the potluck holiday and you don't know, you haven't been told what to bring a vegetable because most likely that's what's going to be lacking at the holidays. So bring a delicious salad and put all the different colors on it, and get a pomegranate and put some fresh pomegranate on it, or get some cranberries and put some cranberries on it, and do things that make it feel special for the holidays. But like I said, help you have something to put on your plate that's going to actually make you feel good inside instead of feel and gross after you've eaten your meal. So anyhow, that is another place that I think is a really practical, easy intervention tip for people. And again, we have oodles of recipes for you to try, to just tweak slightly, right? Green beans are another common one, so green beans with like almonds and lemon, like a green bean almondine, is a totally healthy and filling, if you use a lot of almonds, actual side dish that can help you then cut back on the amount of bread or rice or whatever else is coming on your plate that's going to just not give you quite as much health value. Drinks are another space where people spend a lot of inflammation and calories, and so people tend to overconsume a lot of caffeine and alcohol at the holidays. So just being mindful and planning ahead, like, okay, let me think about today. Is there going to be a special drink at dinner that I really want to partake in? So maybe I shouldn't have that hot cocoa at lunchtime, right? Or maybe I should really think about where I want to spend my drink specials for the day. And then again, just like with the desserts, can you make other special drinks? I have a recipe in there for a mocktail, right? Which is my favorite one is seltzer, like lime seltzer, with a squeeze of fresh lime, an ounce of pomegranate juice, and then sometimes I also will add a hint of cranberry at the holidays, right? So pomegranate lime or cranberry pomegranate lime and seltzer water makes an absolutely delicious mocktail that can really make you not feel like you're missing out on the wine or the mixed drinks or whatever else other people are having. And pomegranate actually is a detox medication. And so an ounce of pomegranate juice a day actually helps you clean up some of the inflammation that some of the other foods might bring for you. So things like that will then be a pretty low calorie and high health value part on the income side instead of an expense when you're thinking about what you want to drink. Another place that people get into trouble, like I mentioned, is that caffeine. And so it's really hard to not end up suffering some adrenal dysfunction, right? Putting out tons of cortisol if you've revved your system all day with caffeine. And I get it, you're tired. And so sometimes you feel like you just need that caffeine. So things like drinking green tea, right, is actually a softer form of caffeine, less inflammatory than, say, chugging coffee a whole day long. Picking a form that doesn't have to come with sugar and creamer for you, planning ahead, thinking about swapping some of that out for maybe herbal teas, right? There's so many different healing teas out there so that are still delicious. And so trying to find ways to take what is happening and just shift it from the expense side of the equation to the income side of the equation so that it's serving you instead of draining you by the end of the holidays. And so that kind of framework is super helpful as well with our drinks. And then just staying hydrated, because people don't realize this, but often we eat because we're thirsty, right? When we feel dehydrated, we just want to put something in our face. And often we reach for food instead of reaching for fluids. And if we've been drinking a lot of caffeine or alcohol, they dehydrate us. And so actually we get even more dehydrated, which makes us more munchy. And so really making sure that for every caffeinated or alcoholic beverage you drink, you get at least 1 or 2 uncaffeinated and non-alcoholic beverages. And it can be water or one of those other things, but really making sure that you are staying hydrated all day long will help you make better decisions on all sorts of fronts, but especially not eating when you're not actually hungry. All right, I want to touch on the emotional side of this for a minute. We have a tendency at the holidays, right, to have emotions running high. And there's so many reasons for that. One is all the pressure that we feel, to perform and to meet the demands that are placed on us, not just our busy schedule, but also, the gifts that we buy, the financial barriers and conflicts and challenges that sometimes that comes with. And then there's the holiday discussions that can sometimes be contentious. And so sometimes it just feels very anxious and very overwhelming. And so many people have a tendency to then self-medicate with food or alcohol. And so being mindful that if that is part of your pattern, that again, those little check-ins on your fridge and cupboard, et cetera, will hopefully remind you to say, okay, wait, am I actually hungry, or am I actually feeling like nervous or stressed or busy or tired and overwhelmed? And if I am doing those things, I'm going to help you create like an immediate first aid, an emotional first aid kit. So if you feel like what I am is sad, or I'm lonely, or I'm nervous, or I'm upset, or I'm exhausted and overwhelmed, what else can I do? Can I take a 2-minute walk outside, preferably around the house? Because especially if you are tired, there is nothing that wakes you up faster than 2 minutes of cold, fresh air. But anyhow, even if you can't go outside, can you just take 2 minutes and move? Can you close your eyes and just consciously take that stress backpack off for a second and set it down? Even if you have to pick it back up, that breathing room goes a long way towards helping it feel manageable. You know, can you do a song, play a song that you love? Can you text a friend for 5 minutes? Is there something else you can do to target the source of those emotions instead of putting food in your face? Right? Most people find if they take 2 to 5 minutes and address whatever the emotion is, then they actually don't need the food. And so a lot of the overeating that happens this time of year wouldn't even happen if you just were able to kind of push pause for just a second on the eating process and figure out what's really driving a lot of it. Plus, then when you come back, you'll probably make a healthier choice, right? Because when we're not being mindful, we tend to reach for the fast, easy process stuff. And when we are being mindful, we tend to make better choices. So maybe you pick up the apple, right? Instead of the cookies. And then the next piece that comes along with that mindfulness and stress stuff is the sleep. Right? We have a tendency to shave hours off of our sleep at the holidays. We stay up later. Sometimes we get up earlier because there's so much to do, so many places to go. And sleep is a really critical part of your appetite and your weight management. And so if you are super exhausted, not only do you eat more and tend to eat worse, but you make more cortisol and adrenaline throughout the day, which tends to hold on to the calories that you do consume and make you pack on those pounds. And so really prioritizing your sleep. Right? Just this is why children often struggle so much at the holidays, right? Their routine and their sleep get trashed at the holidays. And then everybody's like, I don't know why my kid normally behaves super well, but then when we go to the Christmas party, they're a disaster, right? And the answer is really we sugared them up, we mess with their routine and their sleep. And so of course, you're watching that chemistry of cortisol and adrenaline running amok, and nobody likes it, right? And sometimes that's the parents' biggest stress is actually that my kids are going to be a disaster at this party tonight. And so really managing your sleep and theirs is one of the most potent ways to actually avoid all of that, right? And so put it on your priority list, make it like possibly number one. You know, honestly, if you could get enough sleep and you could get your kids enough sleep, that would probably be the most powerful intervention you could make at the holidays. And so maybe you intentionally eat off paper plates, you know, so there's no dishes in the evening and you can go to bed early. Maybe you intentionally plan an after dinner, you know, walk outside to get everybody tired and it's so dark at that point and ready for bed a little sooner. So even with all the holiday excitement, that you can go ahead and go to bed. And I would definitely say that you set a little alarm if you are at a holiday party and you go home when it's time to go home, so that you don't suddenly realize that, wow, it's an hour and a half past bedtime. And now the whole next couple days are kind of trashed. And so really making sleep a huge priority can be also a really amazing weight strategy. All right. Last piece is that relationship side of things. And so there's a lot of social pressure, right? A lot of social pressure. And so I really want people to think about gratitude and the role that that plays. Because starting off every meal by taking a second to think about something, just one thing that you are grateful for, putting yourself in a state of gratitude, right? No matter what is going on around you, right? It could always be worse. And so really thinking about Okay, what am I grateful for at this moment? If someone's in your face, whatever, you're at a party you don't want, there's family members doing other things. It's amazing how sometimes a statement of gratitude, or a say like, as we sit down, if you're hosting, as we sit down, can everybody just take a second to share one thing they're grateful for this year as they go around the table? When you put yourself and your guests in a state of gratitude, a lot of that other tension really shifts, right? And it doesn't have to be feeling awkward or feeling whatever. Holidays are actually a time of year when I think people are more receptive to moving into these things. You can say grace, or you can have other types of gratitude activities, but you can use this yourself throughout the day, and you can totally use this at these parties, right? Or what is the thing that made you smile today? That's another really, amazing way to shift people, because when you think about something that gave you joy, again, you're moving back into that state of gratitude. Being in a state of gratitude is actually the most healing emotional state that we can be in, even more than feeling in love. It actually lowers our adrenaline and cortisol the most, evens everything out, and it really helps us process whatever we are putting in and let go of whatever we need to let go of in a really powerful way. And it only takes a few seconds to make that shift. If you are feeling lonely, if you are feeling worried, before you go to the party or before you go to bed, write an actual gratitude letter. Take a minute or 5 and think about one particular person and why you're grateful that they are in your life, right? And then write them that way in an email, or put it out on a piece of paper if you're going to see them in person, and then hand it out to them, or send it to them. And what you'll find is not only does that, again, totally shift the type of conversation and the way that dynamic and relationship goes. And you should even do this with people that are conflict laden for you, because it will make you able to actually navigate those conversations and navigate that relationship in such a different frame. And studies show even just doing 1 letter a week actually had a huge improvement in people's quality of life and physical health for the next month. Okay. And so 3 letters done once a week in college students actually totally shifted their whole life for the next 30 days. And so this is another really powerful tool that you can use. And for people who are worried about a budget, this is an amazing Hanukkah or Christmas gift. I'm just saying, if you do a heartfelt gratitude letter and you frame it, everybody who's over about the age of 12 thinks that's pretty cool. I'm not suggesting that for the 5-year-olds on your list, because they're not going to care. But all of the adults are going to think that was the best Christmas gift they got. And so these are all little tiny ways to help shift, right, that checking account. I'm trying to run through this crazy fast. And so I want to open up the second half of this to kind of your individual questions, and really direct to the areas that feel the most, concerning or confusing to you. Is there anybody that has any questions, or should
Anyone out there, you can raise your hand, whatever is comfortable for you, or you can put it in the chat. A lot of the things the tips that Dr. G just gave about bringing a healthy dish with you to a party, the swap outs, all of those things are in the handouts that you'll get, which is great.
And you're going to have, and the handouts are really amazing. I mean, they have a lot of focused information. And so I mean, I can start going through some of that. I figured I wanted to give an overview and then invite people to direct it where they wanted it to go. But maybe have people raise their hands. Do people want to hear about more of the specific recipes, specific food items? Do people want to hear more about managing the stress or exercise tips? Maybe ways to squeeze exercise in at the holidays, and make that a part of your day. Any preferences at all here?
Okay.
Everybody's sleeping this morning. All right, so I might actually start with that last one. I don't know what you think, Gloria. That's the thing I touched on the least so far, is really the exercise side of things, because I think this is another really powerful tool. We all have a tendency to snack a lot more at the holidays, right? There's just a lot of food around, and it tends to be food that is finger food more, right? There's lots of cookies and those kinds of things sitting around. And so I want you to think about exercise in that same framework. I want you to snack on exercise, and I want you to tie it to the kinds of things that always happen in your day, like brushing your teeth or peeing, right? We all do that no matter what, no matter how busy our day is. And so by tying things like exercise to those breakpoints in our day, we guarantee that it happens, right? We make it easier to remember. And B, we actually make it more effective. They just published some data in the last month that showed even having 1 to 3 little high intensity moments that lasted 1 or 2 minutes throughout the day. And it doesn't mean you had to do an actual like HIIT exercise where you were lifting weights or doing push-ups or squats, although you certainly can, but just having somebody have to like run for the bus, right? Or just having somebody have to like take a few flights of stairs really quick, you know, to get up to the meeting on the floors above them at work. People who had those little spurts of tiny, intense exercise throughout their day were markedly healthier and had lower blood pressures and lower risk of heart disease and all these things than people who didn't. And so, especially since the pandemic has put many more people sitting on their butts in front of the computer for longer periods of time, this is a really powerful tool you can leverage. Every time you get up and pee, take a quick lap around the entire inside of your house for an extra minute, or while you're in the bathroom, you know, do jumping jacks after you do that after you pee if your bladder is full. But anyhow, you know, do some push-ups on the sink, like plan to do something that's a little bit intense that kind of gets things revved up. You don't have to be breaking a huge sweat, right? Again, we all have, sorry, my cat wants to join the meeting. We all have opportunities to just kind of up our game a little bit, run up and down the stairs a few times, right? Again, I'm not trying to make you so sweaty you feel like you need a shower, but just these little bursts of moderate to intense movement throughout your day make a huge difference, You know, turn on music, and as you clear the table after the holiday meal, boogie, right? Just make everybody dance. Have a dance an after meal dance party with everybody at your holiday party, right? Have, before you serve dessert, have everybody get up and do a fun game, play charades, you know what I mean? Again, have everybody shout out their favorite Christmas song to dance to, and then whoever dances the funniest gets to pick the next song. You know, it can be totally easy and impromptu, and really, again, can make a huge difference in how you feel at the end of it, right? And encouraging people to stand up before they go get seconds. And so another thing I actually think is a good tip that I'm not sure is on the handout is actually serve your food buffet style so that they have to get up and go to a different space, like maybe the other room, to get the food after they've originally filled their plate, because it's a barrier to getting seconds, right? So if people are happy in the conversation and they're seated or whatever, that's fine. But how many of us have ever sat down at a meal at a restaurant, at a party somewhere, and we eat and we're like, oh, I could use more of this. And then, you know, or you go to stand up at the end of the meal and you're just like, oh no, like I ate so much more food than I thought, right? Like my tummy all of a sudden feels so full. So actually getting up and walking around or moving is often a clue to help you feel that you're full, because most of us don't notice that we're full for at least an extra 10 minutes. Like you have like a delay switch, but like I said, standing up and moving around can accelerate that. And so having little tiny tricks like that to get, especially you, no matter what else is happening at the party, you can get up and move before you would choose to get seconds, even if they're sitting at the table. But maybe encourage everybody to get up and move before anybody tries to eat seconds might actually help everybody make healthier choices and not necessarily eat something that is only going to make them feel gross instead of make them feel good, right? Absolutely. So many of us, we don't listen. Yeah.
10 minutes between when you finish and when you get seconds is a good amount of time. Excuse me. The other thing is those little exercise snacks that Dr. G mentioned add up. Don't think you need to set aside a full hour. You don't. if you do 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes there, they do add up and they all count.
Yeah.
And one last thing I would like to sneak in here is you mentioned hot chocolate earlier. This is my new substitute for hot chocolate. There's only 2 grams of sugar in here, and there's lots of good, healthy mushrooms in here. And it doesn't taste like mushrooms, it tastes like hot chocolate. But honestly, this is so yummy, and it's a great way to save calories. You can have hot chocolate, you don't have to worry about